So we are back for another interview. My name is Kole Hansen, and I've got Claire here, and she's just going to share more about your story. So Claire, if you could introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and just maybe what got you to realize you were going to remove your implants.
Okay, cool. Yes, so I'm Claire Weinheimer. I'm originally from Louisiana, but I live here in Austin, Texas. I've been here for about 10 years, and definitely my second home here. I actually, when I moved to Austin, was kind of when this whole journey began. I grew up in a smaller town. I grew up in an area that the pride in self wasn't necessarily like a high priority per se. And I just remember for so many years being annoyed with, and I struggled with having to buy, super small tops and, not so super small bottoms, and cute shirts never fitting the way I wanted them to fit, and so on. And so I figured in my head, the only way to fix this, I'm going to get a, boob job. I'm going to get breast implants. I had this in my mind, and I researched doctors for a couple years in the Austin area when I realized I was going to be moving here. And I couldn't get here fast enough like that. I just was so excited about getting this done. So literally I moved to Austin in August of '06, and I had my implants put in November. So I made it happen pretty quickly. And I honestly didn't really feel like I had any issues with them. Pretty typical healing process and whatnot. And I had them for 10 years. And it wasn't until recently, actually in about May of this year. So we're in November right now. So in May, a very good friend of mine was having some health issues that they kept thinking maybe she was premenopausal, and she's in her early 40s, has never had kids, and just really never, that just didn't make sense. And she's healthy. We both work out together, everything, and we eat right. And so she started working with a doctor to kind of peel back the onion layers to figure out what was going on. And he's the one who pinpointed, do you have breast implants? And she was like, well, yeah, whatever, no big deal.
Which is really crazy because I've yet to hear a doctor
do that.
Suggest that could be.
Well, he's an integrative, holistic.
Okay. Well, so right. That does make a difference because they're looking for more what's going on, what's causing the problem versus just concealing symptoms, because that's unfortunately how most traditional medicine.
It is. And it's frustrating because at the time I actually was going to see an endocrinologist. Actually I'd started seeing an OBGYN. I haven't been the best about that over the years. And so I figured I just wanted to go get my blood work done, just kind of, a once over. And that was at that visit. It was actually Cinco de Mayo on May 5th that I went. Before Tina, my friend, and I had a conversation, and my blood panels came back. Everything was great except for my thyroid. And my thyroid levels were off the chart, super hyperthyroid. And so it wasn't long after that. I'm such a firm believer that God allows things to happen in its most perfect timing, because it wasn't long after that Tina was having a conversation with me, letting me know that she was going to be going to Costa Rica to have surgery. I knew she was having something going on, but she hadn't really told me just yet. And so I remember in an instant, we were in the gym at my house here downstairs, and I remember in an instant, just kind of like it all came to this head, like, oh my gosh, I wonder if this is what could be causing some issues. The thyroid was the big issue that I kind of had come up for me.
Sure.
And I'll just kind of show y'all. If you can see, my actual thyroid is extremely swollen, extremely inflamed. And I was also I'm a personal trainer, a health and nutrition coach. I was gaining weight that was genuinely unexplainable, which is really challenging for me. I'm 4'11".
It's the most frustrating thing in the world, because when you're like, I didn't even get to have cake or a brownie, or because listen, if I put on weight, I usually know why, and I don't even care.
Exactly.
Well, I'll fix it when I'm over it. But
right.
You don't have anything to show for it. It's very frustrating.
Then it's even more frustrating. Yes. Oh my gosh. I could not agree with you more. And so it was gaining weight. My hair was falling out. I was having heart palpitations and hand tremors, and obviously this thyroid thing that was going on, which kind of associated with the heart palpitations. And just this, the worst symptom that began in November of last year, the worst symptom was this pain in my hips. And again, as a fitness instructor, as a personal trainer, I trigger point, I roll out, I stretch. Like, I'm super, super avid about that. Especially the older I get, I want to make sure I'm on top of that. And I would have so much pain in my hips just from sitting for 5 minutes. I'd get up and it would take me minutes to fully extend out of that sitting position. And I'd kind of hobble for a few steps until I could, kind of gain my composure.
You're pretty much telling my story, by the way.
Really?
Right now. I fly to Austin tomorrow. I explant on Thursday. I'm doing it in Dallas.
Oh, you're doing it in Dallas with Melman?
Okay. Yeah. And my hip, and I know how to foam roll, stretch, pressure release. I even have a yoga trapeze that I can do full back bend, extension, and hip openers, and nothing helps. Nothing.
Yeah.
Continue.
So I will give you some hope, my dear, that literally I woke up from surgery, and of course you've got medicines and stuff in your body. Literally from the moment I woke up from surgery, I have not had any pain in my hips at all. That alone for me was the biggest telltale sign. Now, obviously my thyroid thing hasn't gone away. And I'll tell you this, is the thyroid is a very finicky gland. It has one of the biggest functions for our bodies. I mean, my gosh, it controls so much. But the interesting thing about it is you can have, issue A that causes a thyroid issue. Issue A goes away, but because you have the aftermath, the thyroid could possibly still have some issues. And so I feel like I'm now dealing with the aftermath. And, a lot of people ask me, well, how do you know that your implants cause that? I don't, honestly. I think that each person has to go with their gut and has to listen to their body. That's such an important thing. It's just like with cancer. There's very rarely can they pinpoint you have cancer because of X, Y, Z, And so for me with this thyroid thing, I genuinely believe that having these toxic bags in my system for 10 years had to have played some sort of a role in the breakdown of my body. I don't believe our bodies were created to attack itself. I believe it was created to attack pathogens and, things that are not, it doesn't want in its system, which is why.
And let's be honest, there's process of elimination, right?
Totally.
Because this is a big blaring thing that unless you eliminate it, you're always going to wonder. And every time you have a problem, and there is no possible way that it cannot have adverse effects in some way. Just some people can manage it.
Yes.
Some people are more sensitive. And I'm like you, I didn't start having bad side effects until the last 3 or 4 months. And then it became it's gotten worse and worse. But I think once you acknowledge it, then your body's like, okay, now that you're listening to me, let's fix this.
Yes.
So
I agree. I 100% agree. I think it also comes back to kind of our mindset around it. It's kind of like, our RAS, so the reticular activating system goes into this okay, now I know about it. Okay. Oh, is that scratch from that? Oh, is that bump or that bruise? We kind of go into a little obsessive. I know I did personally. I had to catch myself and take a step back. But in the same breath, I also believe, like you said, our bodies, once we recognized it, it was almost like our bodies were like, oh, finally, she's figured it out. Okay, I'm just going to let it all go now. That's what I feel like my body did.
And we get busy with life that I didn't realize with how many symptoms I've had. I'm like, you know what? I've actually had this for a long time thinking it was something else.
Yep.
Again, I don't know. And I explant in 2 days. So I'll find out what my symptom list actually shifts from.
Right.
But because I'm a fitness instructor, because I teach classes, because I'm a personal trainer, because I lift, my body being sore was like, oh, well, maybe I just overdid it yesterday. Or,
right.
Right.
You keep chalking it up to different things. I did that, especially with the hip thing. I had, in November of last year, I had resigned from owning a company, a personal training company, where I was on my feet all day long. And so I just attributed the hip issues to sitting more often than I was used to. And then I joined a Latin dance team in January. So using a lot of hip movement. So again, it just happened to fall kind of within the same time period. And I was like, oh, it's just because I use my hips more. Just again, you just kind of chalk it up to, to different things or stress or whatnot. So yeah, that was kind of the turning point for me. And then I began researching about breast implant illness. I had never heard of it. Obviously, I didn't know it was a thing, or I would never have put these things in my body in the first place. And the more I researched, the more it just was laid on my heart that this was something that needed to be done. And I couldn't agree with you more when you said the process of elimination, because no matter what I had going on with my body, something needed to change. And I knew I was going to have to be the one to make that change. And so I knew I could eliminate and detox and do all this stuff, but knowing they were still in my body, basically counterintuitive of everything else I would have been trying to do, I knew that my first step was to get them out. We didn't have the extra funds just sitting on a shelf somewhere. We made it happen. Did some
I understand very well.
But it was the worst. I mean, it was the best. It was the best decision I could have made. I genuinely, and I'm sure in these interviews, a lot of women say they feel like a weight has been lifted off their chest. Physically, yes, but also, mentally as well. And the healing process for me. So, well, kind of backing up. Tina had gone to Dr. Urzola in Costa Rica.
Who's amazing. I mean, I
was going to say, can I say his name? Okay.
Oh, totally. I mean, because that's the point of these videos is not to, for people to tell the products they use, things that helped, because, for people that don't know, there's a lot of Facebook groups and a lot of them have rules and restrictions, and that's not what these videos are about. These videos are about sharing your actual story, whatever that means, whatever products you used, because all of us have been searching.
Right.
And we know, if I hear someone's story of products they used, when I hear it, I go, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want. So it's share as much information as you want.
Awesome.
I was actually down to either Melmid or Urzola on if I would do fat transfer or not. And I opted not to. So to spend the money to go to Costa Rica, I decided I would stay and go to Melmid in Dallas. So share away anything you want to share.
So it was actually down to those two for me as well. Dallas, obviously, because it's closer to me and all from Austin. And then I interviewed with, or not interviewed, but consulted with Dr. Urzola.
Well, but it should be more of an interview because
it was
a big deal.
Totally was. And I knew I'm a very perceptive person. And I knew literally in seconds of beginning a conversation with him via Skype that he was the surgeon I was supposed to go to. I just kind of went with my gut, and I couldn't have been happier. Absolutely. I did do a fat transfer. So the procedures I had done was a full en bloc where they removed the implant and the capsule in one full swoop. Dr. Urzola. And then I had liposuction done. I had a lift done. It's like an anchor lift that was done. And with the fat combined with a platelet-rich plasma, he did a fat transfer into the breast area. So it would have a little bit of life to them. I was very small-chested to begin with. And so, and I was young when I had him put in. So there was a lot of stretching. I remember my surgery.
When did you explant?
Thank you. I explanted July 13th.
Okay, great.
So just a few months ago. I remember my original surgeon commenting post-surgery that he didn't put me fully under, which is, I don't remember the reason, but I remember him commenting he wished he had because of how much pulling and stretching he had to do. So I knew that if I had just had them removed, it would have been like, oh, let me roll my boob tissue up real quick. It probably wouldn't have been so cute. And I haven't had kids yet. So anyways.
That's me too. I'm like, it's one thing if I would have had kids, but I don't want to, let me still have this for a little while.
Exactly. Well, and then you can always choose later if you want to do,
Totally.
a fat transfer or something like that, which is such a smarter option if you're wanting to have a larger chest. I wish I would have known fat transfer was an option back in the day, but it's not a very common thing here in the States. It's definitely more, it takes a lot more work, way more time consuming. And so Dr. Urzola he's been trained in France and Italy. I mean, the US, he's been trained all over, and that man is brilliant. Oh my gosh, he's brilliant. I cannot speak more highly of him, his service, his staff. and just the whole experience that I had there.
I've only heard amazing things. Even people where maybe their fat transfer results didn't stay, or as much of the fat didn't stay, because that's part of it. It's fat,
Yeah.
However, people's experience, everyone has said how wonderful their experience was there.
Yeah. He's a true, genuine, caring, kind person who absolutely has our best interest at heart and not his lawyers, which unfortunately it tends to be more that way here in the United States. In fact, he commented, I remember one time, or in our consult, he commented that when he did one of his stints here in the US, that's all he seemed to hear from the surgeons was, I don't know if we can do that. Let's check with the lawyer. Like, it was all about covering their butt,
Well, they have to,
they do.
it's here, it's hoops and loops, and people get sued and malpractice, and
all the time.
not easy.
Yeah. No, it's not. So when I decided to go ahead and move forward with him, the number of people who had gone to him, I really only knew of Hope, Realis, and then Tina Miller. And so I trusted their judgment. I saw their results and was very impressed with it, and decided, that was the fit. And so moving forward, things have changed a little bit on his process of how he sets up consultations and whatnot. So I'm not going to go into detail about that.
It's had to, because now he's very in demand now.
Insanely in demand. I'm so glad I got in when I did. But all in all, I couldn't be happier with the results. I probably retained, I would say, about 40%, 40-50% of the fat. It's kind of hard to tell because right after surgery, you're so swollen and inflamed that, I remember post-surgery going, well, geez, these are the same size as they were before, but there's so much inflammation. So as it kind of goes down, the body settles and shifts. And he even said it takes 6 months to 12 for everything to really go back to the way.
Melmed says the same thing. He's like, don't judge it the first 6 months, especially.
Right.
Like, it changes
so much.
First year,
Yeah.
He's like, you really gotta let it just relax a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Which can be hard for us as women to do so.
Well, especially, listen, it's traumatic for women too, to go from having like these full fake perky breasts to maybe nothing left, or, it's just, it's a big deal.
It is. And we wrap so much into it in our self-worth and our, that kind of thing. And I think for me, the biggest learning lesson for me was I wished that 10 years ago, I wished I would have taken the time, instead of researching surgeons, I wish I would have taken the time to kind of go more inward and introspective, and really started listening to what are the things I'm telling myself, and why am I telling myself those things, and what is it that I don't love about myself, and why, and getting to the root of it, and really beginning to understand, my purpose and my worth, and knowing that God created me the way that he created me for a reason, and why alter that, and I wish, obviously you can't go back in time, but even if with this video, if one person hears my words and maybe makes that shift at this point in their life, kudos, and please, I can't recommend it enough. But I've definitely learned to love the skin that I'm in, and really come closer to recognizing how beautifully and wonderfully we're all created, no matter what we look like, So that's kind of been a big aha thing for me. And I teach and train that as a fitness instructor, as a personal trainer. We talk about our bodies all the time. And it was interesting, we're great at teaching that, but not necessarily always turning that back around for ourselves,
Well, some of us take the rockier route to figure it out,
It happens,
but
it happens.
It's most common, like of women that I'm talking to that are health coaches, trainers, people involved with body, because most of us got here trying to find that balance and that feel good and that empowerment. And then as we found it, realized, oh, okay, well, we are now being counterproductive with these implants.
Yep.
And especially for competition, these women that do competitions, implants are a huge part of the look. And I honestly believe the reason that mine got worse was because I started lifting so much in its under muscle that it started to push them out sideways, and I get a lot of nerve pain. And that's just one of the side effects, but I get a lot of pins and needles on the side, like the left side, and nerve. Anyone knows that if you're, if you get nerve issues going on. All sorts of stuff happens.
Yep.
And no one tells you about that when you're going to be
No,
getting implants.
of course they don't.
So
Nobody would do it.
no, they wouldn't. Or I know I wouldn't have. If I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have.
And I competed for 3 years too. So I was a competitive bodybuilder for 3 years. So that the gap between and the rippling. Oh yeah, I got you, girl.
So what was your husband's response when you were like, hey, so by the way, I think that my implants are a problem and I want to get them out? Because some women had a harder time convincing their, family that to spend the money, because like you said, it is not a small expense. For a lot of people, it's a down payment on a house, depending on where you live in the country.
Right.
So
that's why I went to Costa Rica.
Even in Costa Rica, it's not cheap. You know what I mean? Like,
way cheaper than here in the States. Though,
yes, it is. I mean, I'm going to Dallas because it's half the price of New York City, and Virgin. I didn't find anyone in New York that I resonated with that had the track record with explant with either capsulectomy or en bloc. So
right. Yeah. He was extremely supportive, 100% on board. He was like, good. I've never really liked them anyways. Like he loves, sorry for all you ladies who don't have that kind of husband out there, but he just loves me in my most all natural state. When we first started dating, we weren't together when, I had him put in. And so, when we first started dating, he was like, why do you have those? Like, what drew you to that or whatever? So he's just never really loved them anyway. So, but the expense side of it really, he had started seeing a shift in my everything, my mood instability. I was napping. Like, I genuinely used to joke, but not joke, that naps are for old people and babies. Like, I didn't believe in naps. Like, I would make fun of him because he would nap. So when I started napping 2 or 3 times a day, and it was like I was exhausted all the time. He knew. He was like, this isn't you, And so he was like, I don't care what it costs. Let's just figure it out. I don't care.
That's my husband too. And same thing, when I met him, he just asked. He was like, well, okay, well, what made you want to get them? I was 18. I'm like,
oh, wow.
I'm going on, it'll be 15, just shy of 15 years when I exit.
Wow.
And for him, he's like, are you kidding? Get him out. I don't care what it costs. We'll figure it out. And he's like, heck, I get a new woman at of course. But if I had them, great. But he's excited. He's like, I'm excited to see you. Like,
the real you.
100% you. Not the conditioning from society or what other people made you feel, or, the shadow of who you used to be.
Right.
That's not who I am anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm glad we both have awesome, supportive other halves. But for those who don't, I do want to mention that for those who don't, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. And I've talked with so many women who ask me like, God, you're so, you're lucky. Like, how and why was he so supportive? And at the end of the day, ladies, it's your body. It is 100% your body. It's not your husband's or your boyfriend's or your mom's. Like, it is your body. If you know that this is not the fit for you and you need them removed, then where there's a will, there's a way. And just stay true to that. Like, really stay true to that.
Well, and the truth is, like, we know when something's up, when something's going on, and it may not be the implants, or it could be this collection of so many things that the implants isn't what is going to immediately alleviate everything.
Right.
You cannot get back to balance with them. And yes, I know there's methods and detoxes so that you can live with them. I'm not looking to survive.
You want to thrive.
Thrive and have energy, and not at any cost, especially not any cosmetic cost.
Right.
Because looking nice doesn't matter if you don't feel like going anywhere or doing anything. It will affect your sex life. It will affect your family life. It will affect everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. And for me, post surgery, so obviously I knew, silicone, which is what these envelopes that the bags are in, whether you have saline or silicone implants, they're made of silicone, which is comprised of about 37 different heavy toxic metals, solvents, epoxies. I mean, just kind of crazy stuff. A lot of metals are in that. So I knew I needed to do a detox, like you mentioned, doing a detox, but not with them in me. I did I always focus on clean eating, but really leading up to surgery I did. And then post-surgery, I used Arbonne products to do a lot of my detox. I really focused on intaking, like our detox tea has milk thistle and saprosylla and dandelion root, really just detoxing my liver and kidneys and whatnot. And then, staying in the alkaline side of things, really trying to keep my body in an alkaline state. And we have this awesome program that keeps your body in an alkaline state and also balances your blood sugar. So I knew coming out of surgery, you have all this, I had medications and all kinds of stuff in my system. I wanted to make sure I was putting the most alkaline things in my body as possible. So I used that as a priority. And then I also was using Barlow Herbals by Jane Barlow. She's actually become a very close friend of mine.
She's wonderful. I've been detoxing with her for 3 months leading up.
Oh, really?
3 months after. Yeah.
Did Katie introduce you guys?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So Katie and I are good friends, and she lives obviously here in Austin. So, so I used the supplements with Jane to really do a lot of the actual heavy metal detoxing and really pulling things through my system. So between those two, I began feeling 90% better. I had energy again. I mean, my body, I did have to let it heal. I tend to kind of jump back into things really quickly, and which is why I was glad I went to Costa Rica, because it actually gave me 10 days of not being in my home environment to really just chill and kind of, mellow out. Because as soon as I got back here, I was like, okay, kids and life and dogs and, whatnot. So, but between those two, I really started feeling tons better. And fast forward to today, so we're in November and I had them out in July. 85-90% of my symptoms have completely eradicated themselves.
It's amazing.
I have more energy. I actually really didn't drink a lot of coffee actually beforehand, but I mean, I maybe have a cup of coffee a couple times a week, but just because it's warm and I like to drink that.
I just really like caffeine sometimes.
That's what I use the energy fizz stick for.
Reliant, like the last, right. And I actually I got off drinking coffee a long time ago because I don't like to mess up the chemical of my body. Like I like to, stay balanced, whatever.
The acid, especially the acid level.
A lot of things, the coffee
throws off.
That's another episode we can talk about that. But
I'll come right back on here.
I know. I've needed it, honestly, to maintain the class schedule that I did. I couldn't do as much. Mm-hmm. But I taught my last class on Thursday, and then I took off yesterday and today.
Good girl.
To prepare for the surgery and all of that stuff. But it's, I needed it because I had days I felt like I wasn't going to be able to get myself off the floor, to go teach. So
I definitely understand that. I'm super excited for you to embark on this journey.
I cannot wait. I mean, I'm getting that nervous, anxious feeling a little bit.
Excited, yeah. But it's but it's a good anxious feeling too.
Yes, totally. Yeah. So now, you're 85, 90%. What do you feel is still, it's just going to take time because, honestly, there are going to be symptoms like you said, and thyroid, once that sucker gets thrown off, it's not usually right back.
A quick fix. Yeah, at all. That would be, the thyroid thing is probably the biggest issue. And unfortunately with it comes things like hair loss, and like my gums bleed, more like the more, my thyroid has kind of kicked in, the worse that tends to be, unfortunately. So little things like that, but, the weight gain that I've been able to it's because I drank alcohol for the last 5 days, or whatever. Like I can actually pinpoint it. My body is actually responding to my nutrition and responding to my exercise that I'm doing. I feel like I'm absorbing my nutrients a little bit better, not 100%. And I know that that's a big, big factor. I've actually recently been connected with a place, it's called Oasis. Something. They don't have a website, so don't go looking for it, but it's in San Antonio, and they're a holistic center that I'm going to start working with very, very closely, like 2 or 3 times a week, driving down there to really help look at like hair analysis and all that kind of stuff, because I know there are nutrients my body is not uptaking, even though I'm putting them in my system. So other than that, though, I mean, I really feel like that the healing time, the healing process, you have to give your body the time it needs. You have to listen to it. I was taking naps after I got home from surgery, but that's because my body had just gone under invasive.
You need to allow it. You have to
allow it.
Do.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing for those of us who are type A personalities.
I want to jump back in. It's like, great, let's go.
I feel so much better, But yeah, I just really giving yourself the time to heal, and communicating with those in your support system to help you with that I can't recommend that enough.
What would you say to, let's say someone's showing this video to their family member, their spouse, their partner. What would you say to their partner? Or, because so many people say this isn't a real thing. All the doctors are saying that, these women are just basically crazy, because the majority of women, if they take this to their doctor and say, I have breast implant illness, they're like, you're crazy.
Mine did.
Really? So what would you say as far as like resources for them, or tips that you have found through this process, that it's a real thing, that it's not just, one group on Facebook's almost 10,000 now. There's tons of groups. So I stick to some of the smaller groups because of the support, but there's groups all over Facebook if people search. So what would you say as far as, if someone's sitting here watching this with their partner?
I would definitely say, don't just take my word for it, but take my word for it. Like, it is real. This is a real thing. Trust me. I cannot drive that point home enough, but get online and do some research. Here's the thing though, for every negative thing you research, you're going to find more negative. For every positive thing you research, you're going to find more positive. So if you get online to search, I would highly recommend just typing in literally breast implant illness, not does breast implant illness really exist? Because then you're going to find the negative side of things. But be unbiased with your search. Just type in breast implant illness. We've made such impactful waves over the past few months that you're going to find a plethora of information. Hundreds of thousands of women are dealing with this same issue that we all have been dealing with. So definitely get the education. Facebook, like she said, has several groups that have grown. I remember the main ones I'm in, when I joined in May, we had like 2,100 people. And I think it's the same one that's up to 10,000 in just a handful of months. You can't tell me that it doesn't exist when I'm talking to women daily who have either completely healed from issues they had once they had it removed, or who, are watching other people do the same thing. You can't tell me it doesn't exist.
Well, even that 40 or 50% where women are waking up. And I've talked to women for these videos where they went to get blood tests a week later, or they went to get tests a week later, and symptoms are gone. After a year, 2 years, 3 years of having this perpetual issue. So I watched women get well. Yeah. Maybe not 100%.
And the science behind the actual facts. It's not just, I'm not just sitting here saying, oh yeah, the actual true factual side of it. I know Tina, she did digital thermography before having her surgery, and the inflammation. So for those of you who know, it's kind of like infrared. Like when you look at it, it looks, in the inflammation areas, it's, orange and reddish color. In the non-inflammation areas, it's going to be green and blue colored. So as of her chest region, and prior to surgery, everywhere around her breast area was orange and red. Just massively. She just had her recent scan done, so almost 6 months post, and it's all green. You can't tell me that that's not real, Yeah. So if you're sitting there with your partner and your partner's on the fence about this, you know what? This is your body. You make the decision that makes the most sense for you. Because at the end of the day, are they going to be the ones caring for you when you're bedridden in a month or 2 or 6 or 12, whatever? If they are, more power to you, but why let yourself go down that route,
Well, and it's just, our health is all that we really have, and it's, when I set my surgery date, I literally had no money saved because I'd already spent it on other doctors and tests and MRIs and CAT scans and sonograms and all of this stuff to figure out what was going on. I didn't have anything left.
Yeah.
And when I was shopping for doctors, I was like, how are we going to do this? Because I know I need to do it soon.
Yeah.
How are we going to pull this off? But, I set the date. Sorry, I keep looking over. I've got my Chihuahua here. Say hi.
Hi, buddy. Cutie.
I set the date and I said, we'll find a way.
Yeah.
That's the bottom. My husband sold his Forerunner because we had it paid off. We
Yeah.
live in New York City. We can function without a car if we have to. My
Yeah.
husband sold his Forerunner. He sold his collector's vinyl. I mean, he had this crazy 1,200, actually it was closer to 1,600 records that he just said, you know what, but I don't need them. I need you. I need you healthy.
Oh.
Yeah, really just wonderful. And for those that, I'm going to say the same thing. For those that don't have that support, you have to trust yourself then. If you have that gut feeling and no one believes you, join these Facebook groups, get the support. And even if you're in a Facebook group and you're not feeling supported, there are others. You will find a place for you where you are supported and you belong and you can share your story and get support. So please don't just sit back and think that you're alone, because that's the worst part. And nothing solidified for me more than, because I actually, I used to work with Katie and Alex in Austin, which is how I learned about all this, was from Katie. And
she learned about it from me.
See, there you go. This is how we all come full circle.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your story with Katie, who shared it with me. And now I've shared it with people. And
that's awesome.
And having people come and tell me, I was really thinking about getting some in the next year.
Yeah.
And
now they're not
going to.
That
and I'm
has
just
been
like,
my favorite.
Thank you. Because I'm not actually here to discourage anyone if that's what they choose to do, but I want you to know what you're actually up against and to have the proper facts and research to back it up, because you couldn't research things like this 15 years ago when I got them. They had just brought them back out on the market because, silicone had just come back out. I have saline, but, after all the lawsuits and things.
Yeah.
So what would, is just a piece of advice for women that are, say, researching about just altering their body? And it's something you did talk about already, and us discovering that self-love and doing that work within. Where do you have recommendations of where they can do that? Do you have books you've read, things that helped you really do that inner work? Because, if you're trying to do it and you don't know where to look, it's kind of
hard to do it. Yeah. So there is a book that I love. It's called "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero, and I do really love that book. I also, as cheesy and as like, really, that's all you're going to recommend, as this is going to sound, but I'm going to use this word, but I'm also going to put a little tagline with it: meditation. And by that, I simply mean, in moments where you are struggling or you feel, that self-worth, my family running through, just to sit down literally in a quiet place, maybe a favorite park that you love, your backyard, your bathtub, I don't care. And just close your eyes and listen to yourself breathe, and just listen to what your inner self is saying. And I know that seems cheesy, and you may be one of those people like me who's like, okay, my eyes are closed. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. Just try it a little bit more at a time. Ask yourself questions when you're in that moment, and just listen to what your body may respond to. But truly just turning inward. We can get all the books and the trainings and watch this webinar and this and whatever. We're so inundated with these outside sources that really, when it comes down to it, what were the things we were telling ourselves when we put these implants in the first place? Oh, my boobs aren't big enough. Oh, I'm not pretty enough. Oh, we were telling ourselves these things. Yeah, it may have been kind of coming from mainstream media a little bit as well, but just get back to the root of who you are and revisit, who you are and whose you are, and just really begin listening to yourself. It's amazing what our bodies and our minds will tell us if we give them the opportunity.
I'm behind that 100%, that we get this conditioning, for sure, and childhood trauma and things that help, push us on certain paths initially. We're adults now, it's time to make our own decisions. And sure, there is that mainstream media that can make us think a certain way about ourselves immediately. But if you actually stop and listen to that, and if you hear, if I had bigger boobs, I would be this.
Right.
Now, that's the time that when you really go and look at that question, why is that question there? What is it that's really missing? Because it isn't a few cup sizes.
Right. Right. It wasn't. And I know for me, it absolutely wasn't. When I look back on it, I was looking to fill a void, a disconnect. I had just moved to a different state. I was alone. I wanted, I was looking to fill something. And that's what a lot of times it is. It's looking to fill a void, whether it's you haven't been in a relationship, or maybe, a mother or father, something you never know what it is. Only you can tell. We can't sit here and tell you what it is. Only you know what that is. And as you're listening to this and as you begin reflecting, it's finding out what that is, and paying attention to it, and giving it the love that it needs too, and the attention that it needs, and then moving yourself forward.
Totally. Well, that's amazing. And so you had mentioned with the products that you used, if you want to share those again, and if you sell them, if you have a page, share it. And I'll also put it down in the link for YouTube in case anyone wants to reach out with questions, and kind of what protocol you use to get well. Because like I said, all of us are looking for our things, and listen, regardless of whether companies function as MLMs or not, I'm going to let everyone know right now that I have worked with many of them that have changed my life for the good, for periods of time. Then I didn't, need them anymore or want them anymore, whatever. But the same process of elimination is to find that combination that makes you feel alive, makes you feel good, makes you feel connected, whether it's the team or the product or whatever. Yeah. So, you really need to try things regardless of what it is for a minimum of 6 weeks up to 90 days. You can't start taking a supplement or something and, expect immediate shifts. Some do, because if you have serious deficiencies, your body could shift quickly, but don't expect some 180 all the time. We didn't get here overnight. We're not usually going to get completely out of it overnight. Stick with things, feel it out. And honestly, with how much I've spent in medical bills, investing a few $100s at a time to try some things out I'm into it, because I don't see it as an option anymore.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And yes, I do. I am a business coach for Arbonne. And so I do the education behind what we teach and train, and that healthy living from the inside out. And I think the biggest thing, other than the healing from the inside and keeping the body in an alkaline state, which is what our number one priority is, the other piece of it, and a lot of people don't think about this, is our skin is our largest eliminating and absorbing organ. Anything you put on your skin absorbs into the bloodstream in about 26 seconds. And so what happens when we're in a high toxicity state, i.e. having these implants in our bodies are in this constant fight against the pathogens and everything that is negative in our system. And so adding insult to injury by putting on skincare or lotions or whatever, hair potions and whatever, adding insult to injury by increasing the levels of parabens and toxicity and mineral oil and whatnot in our bodies, that's something we actually have control over. We can't control our environment. And in this moment, if you still have implants, you obviously can't control what they're doing in your body until you get them out. So my biggest piece of advice then is make sure you're using, and of course I obviously stand behind Arbonne products, but make sure you're using products that are free from parabens, that are free from mineral oil, SD40 alcohol, rendered animal fat. Oh, that's disgusting. And there's carcinogens in that. Just make sure, especially with the paraben thing, because parabens actually can increase the production of estrogen in a person's body, male or female. And for those who don't know, increased levels of estrogen in your body are very, very dangerous and actually lead to an increased risk for breast cancer and tons of other health issues that people can have. So that education piece, I can't recommend enough. I have found over my years of research, I've been in fitness and health for, over 12 years. And I genuinely feel like I have tried or researched everything out there, because my clients bring me all kinds of gadgets and things to try out and supplements and whatnot. And personally, I have found Arbonne to be the cleanest nutrition products as well as body care products. And I know particularly a woman I worked with several years ago, she was having she was having issues, some cysts and stuff in her breast. And we had done everything you could possibly think of, nutrients, food, everything. When we shifted what she was using like dollar store, not really, but bottom barrel, Walmart stuff, whatever.
We won't name brands, but it starts with a
bottom barrel, whatever. When we shifted her product that she was using, she was a 2-3 times a day shower person because she sweated a lot.
Right.
And we shifted what she was using to wash and put lotion on her body and her skincare. I'm not kidding you. Within like 3 months, the cyst started shrinking and she started having less pain in her breasts. Again, you don't have to believe, but just try it out and see. Like Kole said, like you never know. You have to be your own experiment. Find what works best for you.
That's exactly it. Be proactive. This is, to me, it's a game. Right?
Yeah.
It's same with working out, changing my body. Yeah. I don't worry about if I put on 10 pounds. Why? Because if I really wanted to lose it, most of the time, except for so much recently, it's a game. How do I make that happen? And when it can't, that's your first sign that something's wrong. Is when you know how to get rid of body fat and it doesn't work, you're like, okay, what's going on here? So let this just be a process.
Journey.
There's not an end result. There's not an end. There never will be. And the product could work for a long time and then not work anymore. And it's time to try something else or a new method or shift something.
Absolutely.
It's never done. It's never over. Just accept it and enjoy this crazy
journey
somehow in the meantime.
Yeah. You have to find what works best for you.
You do.
And everybody is going to be different. And that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Claire.
Absolutely.
This is so grateful to get to know you. And maybe I'll try to grab you. I'll be in Austin for a couple days. I'll see if I can snag you before I leave.
Yeah.
It would be great to just sit and have a meal with you and talk to you more, because I'm so grateful for the amazing women I get to meet in this process as well. So thank you again. We'll put all of Claire's links down in the box below so that if you want to contact her about any of the products that she's talked about or companies she's using, or you're in the Austin area, you can connect, because there are a lot of women there for support. So thank you again, Claire.
We can also put the link for Dr. Urzola. Can we put his link underneath? Okay. He has a really great video. I have the link for that as well. I'm sure you do too, but a really great video that does explain a lot more in-depth questions. Any kind of questions that one may have is really helpful. So we'll include that too.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. Love it. So if you're looking for more options, start doing your research on fat transfer. And the research that I did, I couldn't find anyone that competed with Dr. Urzola as far as results and cutting edge newest technologies and the staff and the experience. So all of his contact information will be below. And for those that already have explanted, congratulations. And if your health isn't back there yet, don't give up. It's a process. And you alleviated at least one big glaring issue that was standing in your way. So, keep going. And for those that just found this and are feeling that sense of relief, I'm so happy for you, because it's the greatest feeling to feel, like you found what could be an issue for you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kole. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And I'm going to shoot you my number so that I can try to catch you.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Take care.
Bye.